They told everyone I had a breakdown. That I lost it for no reason. But the truth? I didn't break down that night. I woke up. And they still don't know what I did next. It happened at what was supposed to be just another polite family dinner, one of those awkward pre-wedding gatherings where two families who barely understand each other try to act like they've always been destined to share a table. But that night, it turned into something else entirely. Clara, my fiancée, was sitting across from me, her eyes blazing with that mix of defiance and self-righteousness I'd come to recognize. Then she dropped the line that ended everything. My ex will always be part of my life. If you don't like that, don't marry me. You could have heard a pin drop. Forks froze midair. My mother stopped breathing. Her parents just sat there, as smug and serene as if she just announced her new spiritual awakening instead of detonating our engagement. And me? I just said one word. Okay. But before we get to that moment, let me take you back, because trust me, this train wreck didn't come out of nowhere. That dinner was supposed to be about unity, finalizing plans, ironing out the last wedding details. My parents, a quiet, traditional couple married for 40 years, sat neatly on one end of the table. They're the kind of people who believe in manners, commitment, and finishing your plate before talking about dessert. Across from them sat Clara's parents, two retired therapists who spoke exclusively in therapy jargon and treated every emotional outburst like a fascinating case study. To them, boundaries were just unexplored emotional territories. And right in the middle of it all, was Leo, Clara's ex. Or, as she liked to call him, her best friend. But calling Leo a friend was like calling a thunderstorm a little drizzle. He was everywhere. At every family gathering, every birthday, every holiday, he even had a key to her parents' house. The man had become a permanent ghost haunting the feast of our relationship. From day one, I made my feelings clear. I'm not a jealous man, I believe in respect. I believe that if a chapter of your life ends, you close the book before starting a new one. But every time I brought it up, I got the same patronizing lecture. Ben, you need to work on your possessive tendencies, Clara would say, in that patient therapist's daughter tone. Her parents would nod along like a panel of experts diagnosing my insecurity. They treated my boundaries like a relic from the caveman era, something quaint but outdated. So I stopped arguing. I decided to observe instead. I needed to see what she'd do if I stopped pushing back. Was our relationship built on real partnership, or just her family's brand of pseudo-enlightened nonsense? We were having dessert, my mom's homemade lemon tart, the kind that could make peace treaties happen, when the topic of the wedding seating chart came up. My mom, gentle but firm as always, leaned over the printout Clara had laid on the table. Clara, dear, she said softly, I see you've seated Leo at the main family table. Next to your aunt, actually. Wouldn't he be more comfortable with the friends? Instant temperature drop. The air went from awkward to arctic. Clara's mother froze mid-bite, then set her fork down like she was about to lead a group therapy intervention. Clara's face turned crimson. My mom is just thinking about how it'll look, Clara. I tried to step in, keeping my tone calm. Having your ex at the main table might send the wrong message to guests, that's all. Wrong move. Clara's eyes snapped toward me like daggers. The wrong message? She hissed. The only wrong message here is that you and your parents are stuck in the 1950s. Leo is my best friend. He's family. He was part of my life long before you, and he'll be part of it long after. And that's when her father joined the attack, voice dripping with fake wisdom. Ben, he sighed, we've talked about this. Your rigid worldview is creating tension. Clara and Leo have a beautiful, evolved connection. You should celebrate that, not try to control it. It was like watching a professional tag team match. Her parents nodded in perfect unison, polished from years of emotional manipulation. But this time, I wasn't alone. My parents were sitting there, watching all of it, watching me be humiliated, watching Clara and her family dismantle our relationship in front of them like it was some kind of lesson in emotional growth. And Clara, emboldened by the applause of her audience, decided to go for the grand finale. She stood up, shoulders back, chin high, and delivered her closing argument. Let me make this perfectly clear for everyone, she said, her voice echoing through the dining room. My ex will always be part of my life. He'll be at our wedding, our holidays, our children's baptisms. That's non-negotiable. If you don't like that, don't marry me. The silence that followed was suffocating. Everyone stared at me, waiting for me to crack. To argue, to plead, to do what I'd always done, bend just enough to keep the peace. Clara smiled, that smug, victorious little smile that said she thought she'd won. But I'd been playing the long game. And right then, I finally had my answer. I looked around the table, at her arrogant parents, at my heartbroken mother, at my father's steady, silent strength. Then I looked back at Clara. And I smiled. Okay, I said quietly. She blinked, thrown off. Okay, she repeated, laughing nervously. Okay, you'll behave? Okay, you'll stop being jealous? I stood up, folded my napkin neatly, placed it on my plate. No, I said, calm and final. Okay, I won't marry you. You could feel the air leave the room. I turned to my parents. Mom, Dad, let's go. And as we walked out, past Clara's gaping face, past Leo's stunned silence, past her parents' frozen pity smiles, I knew one thing for sure. Sometimes the quietest word in the world can be the loudest ending. The drive home was the quietest 10 minutes of my life. The hum of the tires on the road filled the space where words should have been. My dad kept his eyes locked on the highway, both hands gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping him grounded. My mom stared out the window, her reflection ghosted by the city lights passing by. I could feel their eyes flicking toward me every few minutes, waiting for something, a sigh, a tear, a breakdown. But there was nothing. No anger. No heartbreak. Just peace. For the first time in 5 years, my chest didn't feel heavy. The parade was over. The masks were off. Finally, my dad spoke, his voice steady but soft. Are you sure about this, son? I looked out the windshield, at the long stretch of empty road ahead of us. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. My mom turned from the passenger seat to look at me. No tears, no pity. Just that quiet, fierce pride only a mother can give. Good, she said. She wasn't the one for you. We were just waiting for you to see it. And that was it. No lecture. No, I told you so. Just relief. When I got back to my house, the one Clara had lived in like it was hers for the past 2 years, my phone was lighting up like a slot machine. Missed calls. Dozens of texts. Clara, her parents, her friends, even Leo. They came in waves. Clara, what was that? You just walked out? You can't be serious. Her mom, Ben, you have deeply hurt our daughter. You need to come back and apologize immediately. Leo, dude, what the hell is your problem? You're blowing this way out of proportion. They all sounded the same, patronizing, dismissive, delusional. They thought this was a tantrum. A moment of masculine pride I'd get over once I calmed down. But they hadn't grasped the finality of that one word, okay. I didn't answer a single one of them. Instead, I made one phone call, to Cynthia, our wedding planner. A consummate professional, always cheerful, always in control. Cynthia, it's Ben, I said, my voice calm, almost too calm. There's been a change of plans. The wedding's off, permanently. There was silence. Then a confused little gasp. What? Ben, the invitations are scheduled to be mailed out tomorrow morning. I know, I said. I need you to stop that immediately. Don't send out a single one. And please start the cancellation process for all vendors. My fiancée and her family will handle all financial matters from here on out. They were managing the payments, so they can deal with the refunds and penalties. See, this was the beauty of it. Her father had paid for everything, and made sure everyone knew it. He'd treated it like some kind of royal production. Now, every dollar spent was his problem. By morning, the dominoes started falling. Cynthia did her job with the efficiency of a military commander. The caterer. The florist. The band. The venue. One by one, she made the calls, each one hammering another nail into the coffin of their grand social event. And each call came with the same message, non-refundable deposit. Then came his call. Clara's father. Ben, he roared over the phone. What have you done? Do you know how much money we're losing? You can't just. I didn't do anything, I said, cutting him off, my tone steady, almost polite. Your daughter gave me an ultimatum. Accept her ex-boyfriend as a permanent part of our marriage, or don't marry her. I simply accepted her terms. I respected her boundary. He sputtered something about lawsuits. You can't do this. You'll be hearing from our lawyer. Breach of promise. I actually laughed. Not the happy kind, the kind that comes from exhaustion and disbelief. Breach of promise? Richard, you were there. You heard her. A dozen witnesses did. She made the continuation of our relationship conditional. I just declined the contract. There's no breach, only a very expensive party you're no longer hosting. And with that, I hung up. By afternoon, Clara showed up. She let herself in using her key, still thinking she could. She found me in the living room, surrounded by half-packed boxes. Her clothes, her books, her random decor that never felt like mine. Her face went pale. What are you doing? She snapped, her voice cracking between anger and panic. Helping you move, I said without looking up. You can't kick me out, she shrieked. I live here. That was the moment I stood up and faced her. Calm. Steady. Done. No, Clara, I said. You've been staying here. This house is mine. My name's on the deed. And your invitation has officially expired. I'll be changing the locks tomorrow. You should probably call your parents to help you pack. And just like that, the armor cracked. All that arrogance, gone. The strong, evolved woman who declared her ex would always be part of her life, was now standing in front of me, crying, begging, bargaining. Ben, I didn't mean it, she sobbed. It was stupid. I was angry. Please, I love you. I wanted to feel something. Pity. Sadness. Anything. But all I felt was clarity. The time for that, I said quietly, was when my mother sat at your dinner table being disrespected. The time for that was before you made another man a condition of our marriage. I picked up the last box and handed it to her. You made your choice, Clara. Now I'm making mine. The next 30 days were a masterclass in reality, one Clara had never signed up for. For the first time in her life, she was about to learn what it meant to face consequences. Real ones. She and her family had always floated through life on a cushion of money, charm, and self-delusion, convinced they were somehow above the rest of us. Every mistake they made was a learning opportunity. Every bad decision was part of their journey. But now, that bubble had popped. The first lesson hit where it hurt most, the wallet. For a full week, her father tried everything, threats, guilt trips, even the old, "You'll regret this one day" speech. But when it became clear I wasn't going to pay a single dime toward their six-figure wedding disaster, the tone shifted fast. The final number was staggering, around $100,000 gone in deposits and cancellation fees. Non-refundable. Even for a family as comfortable as theirs, that wasn't pocket change. It stung. And worse, it was public. Their pride had a price tag now, and everyone in their little social circle knew it. Lesson 2 was social, and oh, it was brutal. At first, they tried damage control. I heard they told friends I'd had a breakdown. That I was unstable, impulsive, that I'd panicked before the wedding. Nice try. The problem was, half the people in their circle had been at that dinner. They'd heard Clara's ultimatum firsthand, or heard it within 24 hours from someone who had. And the story spread faster than they could spin it. Clara wasn't the heartbroken fiancée anymore. She was the woman who told her fiancé to accept her ex at their wedding, and lost him in front of both families. You couldn't script a better scandal. After she moved out of my house, Clara ended up right back where she started, in her childhood bedroom. Her parents' perfect therapist family facade cracked almost instantly. I heard the arguments from mutual acquaintances, shouting matches, blame flying in every direction. Her father furious about the money, her mother embarrassed about the gossip, both of them quietly blaming Clara for the mess. That evolved family dynamic they loved bragging about? Gone. Now they were just another bitter, broken trio trapped under the same roof. And then there was Leo, the supposed spiritual brother, the man she defended to the ends of the earth. When Clara needed him the most, when her world was collapsing, he was suddenly busy. No more long calls. No comforting messages. No surprise visits. He'd been a great accessory when she had a stable, successful fiancé, the perfect emotional sidecar to her curated life. But without the safety net, without the luxury, without the image, he vanished. Just another fairweather friend who found sunnier skies elsewhere. Meanwhile, while her life smoldered, mine was quiet, peaceful. I took a 2-week trip to Europe, a trip I'd always wanted to take but had put off because Clara had no interest in old buildings and cobblestones. I wandered through Paris, stood in front of cathedrals, ate breakfast alone overlooking canals in Amsterdam, and realized something I hadn't felt in years: contentment. When I came home, I poured myself into my work, and it paid off. I landed the biggest project of my career, one that reignited the part of me I'd buried while trying to be the perfect fiancé. I reconnected with old friends, the ones who'd quietly disappeared during my relationship because, as one of them put it, you weren't you anymore, man. I didn't date. I didn't need to. The silence was enough. The freedom, intoxicating. For the first time, my life belonged entirely to me. And then came the final lesson, poetic, really. 6 months later, a prestigious architectural journal ran a feature on a historic theater I'd spent 2 years restoring. It was the proudest moment of my career. The article included photos from the reopening gala, a beautiful night, the mayor in attendance, industry leaders everywhere, and me on stage accepting an award under the golden lights of that restored theater. My name. My work. My moment. I didn't post it to rub anything in. I didn't have to. Because when that issue hit the stands, and Clara saw the picture, me standing on that stage, smiling, calm, successful, untouchable, she finally understood the truth. The word okay wasn't surrender. It was closure. It's been a little over a year since that dinner, the one that detonated my engagement and reset my entire life. Sometimes it feels like a different lifetime. Sometimes, it feels like it all happened last week. In the months that followed, everything changed, quietly at first, then all at once. My company grew faster than I ever expected. The theater restoration project, the one that made the architectural journal, turned out to be my launching pad. New clients came knocking. Bigger budgets. Bigger risks. I stopped surviving and started building again, not for someone else's approval, but for my own satisfaction. I sold the old house, the one Clara had tried to turn into a shrine of her modern love. And I bought a loft downtown, all clean lines, exposed brick, and industrial steel. My kind of place. No pastel throw pillows. No crystal diffusers humming in the corner. Just quiet, sunlight, and space that actually felt like mine. About 6 months ago, I started dating again. Her name's Sarah. She's a doctor, sharp, funny, unpretentious. The kind of woman who can stitch up a wound with steady hands and still laugh about spilling coffee on herself 10 minutes later. Her family? A loud, loving Italian hurricane. They argue over dinner, hug between courses, and send you home with enough leftovers to feed a small army. From day one, there were no games. No lectures about possessiveness or boundaries needing exploration. Sarah doesn't play power games, she lives in the real world. Her past is her past. Mine is mine. We talk. We listen. We build. Simple as that. And maybe that's what peace really is, not the absence of noise, but the presence of someone who doesn't make you feel like you're walking through a minefield. I hadn't heard from Clara in over a year. I'd blocked her, her parents, and anyone remotely tied to that old chapter of my life. But word has a way of getting around, even when you're not listening for it. From what I gathered through mutual acquaintances, life hadn't been kind. Her parents had lost their big suburban fortress. The combination of the wedding fiasco, bad investments, and her father's inflated ego finally caught up with them. They sold the house and moved into a condo. Clara was still living with them. She'd tried to reinvent herself, called herself a life coach online for a while. But without my financial support, the brand fizzled before it even took off. These days, she was working part-time at a high-end boutique, selling clothes she could no longer afford to wear. And Leo? The soul connection, the lifelong friend? He was gone too. Engaged to someone else. His new fiancée apparently wasn't as fluid about boundaries as Clara had been. So much for evolved connections. Then came the moment I never saw coming. It was last month. Sarah and I were at a charity auction downtown, one of those black tie events where you pretend to understand abstract art while sipping overpriced champagne. We were laughing, bidding on a painting we had zero intention of winning, when someone, caught my eye across the room. Clara. She wasn't a guest. She wasn't mingling with the donors or charming the crowd. She was in uniform, black apron, white shirt, hair pulled back, one of the volunteers refilling glasses and clearing plates. For a second, time just stopped. She froze when she saw me with Sarah. Saw the way Sarah's hand rested naturally on my arm. Saw me smiling, relaxed, light in a way I hadn't been in years. Our eyes met for only a heartbeat. But in that brief flicker, everything passed across her face, recognition, disbelief, and then, something else. Something raw. Regret. The kind that hits too late, when there's nothing left to fix. Her composure cracked just enough for me to see it before she turned sharply and disappeared through the kitchen doors. And I just stood there, holding Sarah's hand, realizing I didn't feel anger, or pity, or even triumph. Just, nothing. Because for the first time in a long, long while, I was completely, undeniably free.